What's going on, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? I am Zombie Cartman, and today we're gonna make some homemade cinnamon rolls. So the first thing we're gonna need to make the cinnamon rolls is to scald 3/4 of a cup of milk. You can see just like a film of bubbles along the side there. That's how you know that your milk is scalded properly. Or damn near. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and just pour it. Well, wait. Actually, we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to leave that just sitting there. We're going to go ahead and put our flour in the bowl first. Got my eggs, my 2 eggs that I need, I've got sitting here warming up. Alright, so you're going to need 4.5 cups of flour. We'll just do 4 at first. You want to leave like a little depression inside the flour. Like that. Like a little reservoir. Now we're going to go ahead and add the milk, which will slightly cool down once it's in here with the flour. Now we need 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick of butter. Just going to carefully unwrap that. Drop it into the milk. Probably go ahead and throw the eggs in there. Now we need 1/2 cup of sugar, which, since this is a sweet dough, you may want to use just a little bit more than 1/2 cup. It's okay to come with like a heaping 1/2 cup. Maybe a little more. What else do we got? A teaspoon of salt. It's a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'll use it twice. half a cup of warm water. Two packs of yeast. All right, now that that's all in the bowl, we'll need to start mixing, which is going to be intense because there's a whole stick of butter in there, but it is pretty soft, so it should mix pretty easily. And the best way to mix this amount of stuff is to just do it with your hands. We're going to go ahead and pre-flour this surface because we're going to need lots of flour, and have another little bit of it standing by in the cup. Just grab the stick of butter and start squishing it. Squish the eggs, squish it all. You are a mixer now. You've turned yourself into a mixer. Really want to try to get after it, squish it, squish all the butter. You know, there's going to be lumps of butter kind of evenly distributed through the batter because of this, or through the flour, the dough. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I didn't go with the full amount of flour either, so this mixture here is still going to be quite wet at first. Actually see little pieces of butter, which, like I said, is just fine as long as you've got somewhat of a good uniform mixture through there. You know, you don't got like half a stick sitting somewhere. You'll be all right. Look something like that. Now we're going to go ahead and add that other half cup just to kind of dry this out a little bit. Once you can get all the dough into one glob, basically, you want to go ahead and turn that out onto your surface, like so. Go back through and try to get all the little pieces that are trying to stay in the bowl there. You can get some flour on your hands to try to get all the wet dough off your hands. You don't have to go too crazy with it because the dough will exfoliate your hands and you don't want to be eating a bunch of skin. So, you know, you can leave some stuck. Or you could even use gloves or something. I don't know. There's probably people that are germaphobes, I guess, that would probably use like latex gloves to cook food. But thousands of years of people mixing dough with their bare hands hasn't killed me yet, so I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't care. We're mixing dough. We're not trying to make sense. We're trying to make dough. This dough is still pretty wet. I can feel a lot of moisture in it as I mix. That's why I'm tossing around the flour here and keeping it well floured. You don't want to go too dry. You know, you want some moisture to stay in the dough. You want it to stay just a little bit sticky through this process. That way your rolls will be, you know, somewhat moist once they're done. If you put enough flour in this right here to dry it out completely, you'll have some really, really dry and probably crispy cinnamon rolls once you're all done. So be sure to leave just a little bit of moisture in the dough. Basically just folding it over on itself, pushing it flat, and just repeating that process. You can get kind of violent with the dough, you know, smack it around a little bit. Whatever you feel like doing. It can take it. You got any aggression in your life? People making you mad? You just bring it here to the counter and work it out. Alright. That's pretty much good. We'll go ahead and plop that in there. That's the dough ball right now. We'll come back here in about 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, but probably about 2 hours. And it should be about as tall as the top of the bowl, maybe a little bit taller. So we'll catch you back here in just a little bit. All right, we're back. The dough is risen a little bit. I forgot that I normally do this as a double batch. And so that's why I'm used to the dough being twice, you know, what it is now. But really, you're just looking for the dough to double in size from what you started with, which is about what I got. So I'm going to go ahead and knock it down, which all you got to do is stick some fingers in it. It's feeling kind of cold. I think I'm going to move it over to the oven. But yeah, the dough's knocked down. So now we'll let it raise again, and then we'll be ready to roll it out. Alright, so we're back. The dough is pretty much risen as much as it's going to rise. And I've got my surface somewhat floured. I'm going to give it just a little bit more flour. You don't want too much. Here you can see my dough. It's really filled out the bowl. Didn't do it as like I thought, like I said earlier, but that's because I am used to doing a double batch. Let's just dump that out. Looks like it's trying to kind of stick. We'll need a rolling pin. We've got this fancy stainless steel rolling pin. You may not have one like it. They all pretty much work the same as long as they're good and dry. You also want to kind of flour your rolling pin. This one doesn't take flour very well, so we'll kind of put some on top of the dough. Smokey's out there looking at me like, who are you talking to? I'm just gonna hit my head on those a few more times. It's no big deal. Barely felt that. Just gonna roll this on down. Tell by how easy it's rolling that the dough is real good. Trying to go for somewhat of a uniform rectangle. It doesn't have to be perfect though, because you're going to roll it up and nobody will know what it really looked like anyway. Something like that. I think I got that maybe about a 1/4 inch thick. You can go thicker if you want. I wouldn't go much thinner than what I just did right here. And we're going to take, well, first let's get some stuff ready because we're going to be committed once we get that going. We'll get some sugar ready. I need to get my cinnamon, wherever that is. Somewhere in this kitchen cupboard. Here's some ground, whoa, I almost dropped it. Some ground cinnamon. We're going to use that liberally. Alright, now, the messy part. We're going to take this stick of butter. You could melt it if you want, like throw it in the microwave for 10-15 seconds or something. I prefer to leave it somewhat solid like this. And you're just going to kind of, again, like when you were mixing the dough, you're going to make this nasty mess with the butter. Just kind of rub it down. Get it everywhere. It may take the whole stick. You know, we're not trying to make like some kind of crazy low fat. You might as well use the whole stick because nobody's going to want a stick of butter for anything that's got big finger marks in it like that. I can assure you. You gotta be kind of careful because you can tear the dough. You know, you can't be too aggressive. Kind of flick the butter on there. Throw pieces of it. You know, this is your canvas. Make some art. All right. Now that the butter's on there, we're going to go ahead and use our other hand because we're ambidextrous, sort of. We're just going to throw a whole bunch of sugar on here. When I was a kid, I could have swore my mom must have been using brown sugar for this, but I think it's just the way it cooks down. It makes it look brown. You know, sugar, once it kind of gets roasted, it browns a little bit. And it's okay if you got some lumps, you know, some valleys and some ridges of sugar, because you're going to mix all this up here in a second with your dirty hand. Alright, I don't know how much that was. Can't be arsed. It was probably 2 cups. Now I'm going to gently sprinkle cinnamon all over this. Again, I'm not sure how much I'm using. Probably like 2 tablespoons. Maybe more. Doesn't matter. You know, you just want to get it everywhere. I don't know what to do with this hand, so I'm just kind of holding it here. Alright, now that we've made this mess, we're going to go ahead and kind of smooth it out. Just give it a good, oh, dogs are on high alert. Just give it a good rub down. Not trying to rub the ingredients to different regions of the dough or anything. You're more or less trying to just combine everything. You can see that the sugar and the cinnamon is kind of combining into cinnamon sugar. I know your mind is blown right now. You can't believe what's happening. All right. Go ahead and get that going. Now, you're going to see why it's called a cinnamon roll, because you actually roll this whole thing up. You can start pretty much anywhere. I'm going to start right here in the middle and just kind of go across the side here and just start rolling it. There might be some fancy, weird way to do this that I'm not aware of, but this is how I do it. You want to keep the roll pretty tight. You know, you don't want it to be loose. And I'm just rolling little bits at a time all the way across to try to keep it even. Also, this is where you'll see how well you were floured underneath, because if you didn't do a very good job, it will stick right here and you'll be cussing. Try not to roll it all the way over into that line of flour. You don't want none of that in your mix. So once you got it, you know, pretty close to the end, just pull it back. And then once you got the roll fully formed, you want to get the crease underneath, and then try to tuck and kind of scrunch the roll together to where the whole thing is one uniform size, you know. Otherwise you'll end up with like a really small roll, you know, and then they get progressively bigger. You want some sort of uniformity to it. Let me check the dishwasher and see if I got a bread knife. It's dirty. Damn it. Which leaves me with just a normal knife. We'll see if we can get her done. I think this thing's sharp enough to actually do it. What I like to do normally when I go to cut the rolls is go ahead and mark them with like where you think you're going to cut. Something like that. It's not really necessary, I guess, but it's kind of good to do so you don't commit to cutting them and make a mistake or something, in case you feel like doing that. And then you just want to slice the rolls. I would prefer to have a bread knife because it would cut through this dough fairly easier, you know, without potentially smearing or ripping the dough, but it seems to be sharp enough that it's doing just fine. If anything, I'm doing really short movements, which is probably helping as well. So those are cut. Go ahead and give them a quick spray of some cooking spray, because these will kind of stick on the bottom. You know, they got a lot of sugar inside, so they're going to end up sticking on the bottom. You kind of pinch the dough together on the ends. That'll kind of lock it together so that the end pieces don't just flop over. Otherwise they will want to do that. They might do it anyway. You know, if that happens, it happens. It's just easier to bite into when you go to eat it. One more cookie sheet. You don't want to cut these too thick, you know, lengthwise, you know, this way, because then they'll stand up too tall. And when you go to bake them, they'll just kind of flop over as well. Kind of space these out. We got plenty of room here. Alright, so now these are going to have to rise covered with a towel for another hour and a half or so. Maybe only an hour. It depends on how long you actually want to wait. You don't have to wait either. You could throw them in the oven right now, but they would expand so quickly in the oven that they will rip themselves. Basically, the roll will break somewhere, you know, in the circle because of the expansion so quickly. So that's why we're going to let them sit for a while. That since these are rising, this is a good time to go ahead and make the icing, which has been, you know, I've had this block of cream cheese sitting out pretty much all day for it to warm up. You don't necessarily need it at room temperature, but you want it warm enough that you can actually whisk it down, you know, and actually make it into something. Don't let it get too warm, obviously that could be dangerous. That's 1 8-ounce brick of cream cheese plus 1 full stick of butter, or 1/2 cup of butter. And then you need powdered sugar. I believe you need roughly 1 pound of powdered sugar, maybe a little more, depending on what you actually want from the flavor of this. If you want it to be more of a cream cheese flavor, then you use less sugar. If you want it to be more of a, you know, more sweet and less of a cream cheese flavor, then you use more sugar, I think. I'm kind of distracted because my dog is losing her mind out there like a jerk. And you're going to get you some milk, which you're going to kind of need to leave out because you don't really know how much you need. It's usually you only need a couple of tablespoons for this. It's really not a lot. Do not use too much milk or you'll make a bunch of syrup, basically. I think I should probably just get the mixer out. This is a bad idea with the whisk. It's going to take me forever. Definitely needs more sugar. It might be 2 pounds of sugar. Or, you know, powdered sugar. I don't know. I always just kind of wing it. Just a little bit more milk. You can tell if you need milk because it'll be climbing the beaters a little bit too much. Alright, so the icing's done. The cinnamon rolls are still rising. Probably not much of a noticeable difference. Nope. So we'll be back in a little bit to throw those in the oven and then ice some of them and taste them and call it a video. It's burning! Oh man. Now look at those. You can pretty much start icing them as soon as they come out. It's best to do that actually because the icing will actually melt down all over the top. So that's it, homemade cinnamon rolls. Too bad there's not smell or taste vision, because you guys can't smell. Ow, that's hot as shit. Can't smell or taste that, but it is good. Oh man. Wait a minute. I gotta try another bite. Oh my god. This is the best cinnamon roll you can eat, because it's as hot and as fresh as it gets. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you'll be able to make your own delicious homemade cinnamon rolls. And until next time, thanks for watching.